So I had already published a video on my channel about Pluto going into Aquarius, but I think it was like, I don't know, maybe like 6 months ago or something where I posted it. I actually did one on Pluto going through Capricorn and then Pluto going through Capricorn, Capricorn slash Saturn, since Saturn's the ruler, like what that energy looks like, and then Pluto heading into Aquarius. And so I felt I needed to refresh the Pluto into Aquarius one since we are, what's today's date? I think it's the 16th. Yeah, it's 16th. So we are 4 days away from Pluto going back into Aquarius, and it's going to backtrack into Capricorn for a few months. I'll pull up the details here in a second, but we're in the transition period of Pluto coming out of Capricorn, going into Aquarius, and it's going to mark a period of 20 years where Pluto is going to be transiting through Aquarius. So in this video, I just hit play here. I don't have anything scripted. I'm just going to look at Pluto going through Aquarius from an evolutionary astrology perspective, but more, I'd say the intent here is from a personal perspective to understand what is this energy, what is the underlying intent of the symbolism of Pluto going through Aquarius? What is it trying to uncover within each one of us? And obviously, everyone is at they have their own experiences, they're at their own evolutionary level, at their own level of consciousness. And so this is going to come out in an infinite number of ways. But I felt I wanted to do this just as an overarching energy read so you can understand what's on the horizon or what's to come or how this may impact you and the people around you and even the world. Although I'm not going to talk about the world, I'm going to talk about it more from an energetic perspective. So let me share my screen here and bring up a document that I created for this. Okay, so some of the details here. So Pluto has been transiting Capricorn from January of 2008 it's going to be through the end of, or till November of this year. And so we're in the transition period. So Pluto did enter Aquarius briefly in 2023 from March until June. So it reached the 0-degree mark of Aquarius, and then it went back retrograde again. And so coming up here in 4 days on the 20th, Pluto is going to go back into Aquarius, and it's going to be there until September. And then in September, it's going to go retrograde again, and it's going to go back into Capricorn. It's going to reach the 29th degree of Capricorn. And then in November, it's going to head back direct again. It's going to head back into Aquarius, and it'll be there for the next 20 years. So until 2044, we're going to have Pluto making its way through Aquarius, which signals an entire generation. So Pluto takes 248 years to make a complete cycle. And so this is huge. It's a big transit, and it's a totally new energetic experience than what we've been experiencing since January of 2008. And so what does it mean? Like just basically Pluto going through Uranus. So Pluto foundationally is an energy of, I want to show things to you. I want to show you things that maybe are unconscious that you're not aware of. I want to show some of the shadow stuff that may be there. There's a metamorphosis that takes place when we talk about Pluto, meaning that you come into, just using that symbolism of Pluto maybe coming in contact. I'll use a personal example. Pluto conjunct my natal Mars. It's like my experience of that was everything that all the structures of my life that were in place, all of the things I was attached to from a job perspective, from a relationship standpoint, from the way I viewed myself standpoint, it all during the period of that transit was totally rearranged. Relationships changed, they shifted, they were removed. I left my job. There was just a lot that took place during that time. And so Pluto comes through, and you can think of Pluto as like with the words that come to me is like, I want to see the best in you. I want to see the core of who you are, and I want you to be able to authentically express that to the people around you. And so you have that symbolism, and it's going into the sign of Aquarius. And so Aquarius is got two rulers. So it's the modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, and the traditional ruler is Saturn. And so Saturn also rules Capricorn. Saturn has the dual rulership of Capricorn and Uranus. So it's still going to affect our structures, Capricorn. It's still going to affect all of the things that it's been affecting since 2008 are still going to be on the table here all the way through 2044. The additional energetic expression here for Aquarius is the archetype of Uranus. And Uranus is all about individuation at its core level from an energy standpoint. So if you think of Saturn and Uranus, and if you think about it just from your chart or from looking at Capricorn and Saturn and those type of energies in your chart, and Uranus and Aquarius, there's a lot to it. But just to stick to Aquarius, it's going to be, it's related to the 11th house. It's related to like as a high level groups and associations. So it's part of how do I as a unique individual contribute my energy to the whole in a way that's meaningful and can add value. And like if you think of the phrase, leave this world a better place than when I found it, right? So that's part of the energy here of Aquarius. Aquarius is, let me just kind of follow the slides as I feel myself kind of getting off into a tangent here. But from an evolutionary astrology perspective, Uranus, Aquarius equates to the individuated unconscious. That's not what I want. Hold on one second here. There we go. So individuated unconscious. So what do I mean by that? I mean that the soul, your expression, this lifetime, your consciousness that comes into this body has had other experiences. And so it's experiencing all these different, I'll just broadly call them experiences, which could be here on Earth, it could be in other dimensions, could be other realities, just other experiences. And it collects all of these. It has these experiences. It integrates those experiences. It learns, it gains wisdom, it transforms, and then it continues to grow and evolve and have more experiences. And so an individuated unconscious, what that means is that you have an individual soul memory of all of those past experiences. And so it's soul memories. So think of having, just thinking of it from like an earthly perspective and living your life here on Earth. Think of another timeline where maybe you were incarnated in the 1700s, right? And you had a specific existence in the 1700s. You had certain experiences, you had certain relationships, you were aware of certain things, there was certain societal conditioning. And so you had those experiences, they were part of your soul. Then you transformed out of this body, and maybe now you are reincarnated in a different timeline. So those soul memories still remain. They're still there, even if you're not aware of them. So things like things you've learned or ways to do things or knowledge or experiences. So, like I say here, gifts, skills, abilities, ancestral patterning, and trauma. So all of those are labels that you could put on the Aquarius archetype, or specifically Uranus in your natal chart. And so Pluto, the transformer, coming through this individuated unconscious, these soul memories, things may get drawn to the surface, which could mean you all of a sudden get this epiphany and you have this awareness of where to go with your energy, or you have this awareness of just reality, or you have an awareness of a gift, skill, or ability that has been latent up until this point in time that comes on board, and you're like, whoa, I know how to do this. And I wasn't taught it. It just came to me, and I have this new ability that's come on board. Ancestral patterning. So things that need to get healed within the ancestry can come through with this Pluto transit through Aquarius. And traumas. So any type of trauma that you may have experienced, whether that's in this lifetime or in past lifetimes that you weren't aware of, that could come to the surface for you to be able to look at it, give it the light of day, understand what it means, heal it, and transform it. Because any kind of trauma that you hold that is not dealt with or transcended is going to be present within your soul. It could be from, like that example I used of the 1700s, where you had a lifetime and maybe there was a traumatic experience. And maybe that traumatic experience was the cause of your passing. And so, in order to, from a soul perspective, be able to continue to express yourself in the most authentic way possible, that trauma needs to be healed. If it wasn't healed, it gets repressed. And that's another indication in a natal chart of Uranus, especially Uranus in retrograde, where you have some oppositions or you have some squares to Uranus. That could potentially indicate some of this type of experience where you have a trauma that needs to get healed. And so there's many ways that that can come to light. Could be through dream state. It could be through just going about your day and all of a sudden you get hit with some kind of strong emotion where you just start crying and you start releasing some emotions that maybe you weren't able to in the past. That type of stuff can come to the forefront. Or just, hey, a desire to do past life regression therapy. Maybe that comes to your awareness, or you want to do plant medicine, right? There's this desire within you to do it. That can be part of this energy. The other thing here with Uranus, like I talked about and touched on this a little bit already, is liberation from conditioning. So if you think of the archetype of Capricorn and then you think of the archetype of Aquarius, Capricorn is a certain type of a structure. Capricorn also relates to society and how society is structured. So think of the masses and having to control the masses to be able to define a workable structure for all of us to get along, and for there to be rules and regulations and a certain way of doing things so we can move forward. And so from an individual perspective, there's exposure to that type of conditioning. And sometimes that exposure to that type of conditioning doesn't really give you enough space to really be who you are. And so Uranus comes in and it's like, okay, well, any structures, and when I say structures, I was talking about societal structures, but it could be structures from your parents or caregivers. It could be structures from school. It could be structures from anyone that you come in contact with that have conditioned the way that you see the world or the way that you see yourself. And so liberation from conditioning means there's going to be a desire within me, or there's going to be circumstances, or there's going to be an opportunity for me to see places where I'm not really being authentic within myself and how I want to express myself. And here's the reasons why, or you name it, right? It could be any of those things I just talked about: parental, societal structures, school structures, you name it, any kind of a structure, which could be mental structures, could be physical structures, it could be any type of parameters, any kind of rules, any kind of expectations, things like that that are in place that are preventing you from being authentically who you are. That's up for change here with Pluto going through Aquarius. I already talked about the trauma piece, which is my next bullet point here. And then these points here are the ones I kind of just talked about here. But it really, I'm not going to belabor this. It's really getting back to your organic expression, how you want to express yourself in this lifetime, and being able to get to the place where you can do it and not feel bad about it, or not hide it, or place yourself into places where it's not allowed, or it's not seen, or it's not given the space to be expressed. So those type of things are going to come to the surface. And with everything I do, and when I do these talks and I talk about anything to do with symbolism and astrology, it does come down to, there's a lot of factors in terms of how you'll experience this. Consciousness level is a big one. How aware are you of your expression? How aware are you of who you are? How aware are you of the influences of other people on you and how it's affecting you, right? So all of that plays into how you'll experience the example here of like Pluto going through Aquarius is, I could experience this. There's infinite number of ways, but just using a couple examples, one of them could be that my world gets turned upside down and I just don't know what to do. And I feel like everyone is against me and I don't understand it, and it's disorienting, and I get mad or I feel victimized, right? That could be an experience of this energy. Or it could be the other end of it, where things maybe that are difficult or that change your reality start to happen, but you're like, okay, I know this is showing me something here, and I can tap into, or I can feel into, what is it trying to show me about myself here? How can I understand this circumstance or this relationship or these things that I'm feeling inside of me? What is it trying to show me? Just two examples. It could be a wide range of how this is experienced. But one of the things here is, you can think of Uranus, Aquarius as, specifically Uranus, which is the modern ruler of Aquarius, as the higher octave of Mercury. And what I mean by that is, like, if you think of Mercury from an astrology perspective, Mercury is how you mentally construct your reality. It's communication style. It's like taking this information and knowledge and how do I communicate it to other people? What types of things will I want to learn in this lifetime? Where Uranus is more quick downloads of information or stuff coming to you that you're like, whoa, that was something I wasn't aware of, but I get it and it makes sense, right? Or I have this epiphany in terms of what direction to take. That's like Uranus type stuff, meaning there's this quick electricity to it. And so for me, it relates to neuroplasticity, and neuroplasticity just simply means that in my brain, I've been conditioned to believe certain things. And so there's a neural connectivity in place. You can think of it as like highways connecting different cities, where there's a pavement that's laid, there's a road that's constructed, and it's like, I know if I hit this road, I'm going to take this path and it's going to bring me to a certain place. So within your brain, you have that same type of connectivity going on where I was taught certain things, or I've learned certain things, or I believe certain things about myself through conditioning, and that has created my reality. Neuroplasticity is the ability to change those things. So some of the things like limiting beliefs that keep you stuck and it keep you in a place where you aren't able to express all of who you are just because of a belief system. Well, some of this energy here with Pluto going through Aquarius can bring some of those things to light. It can start to rewire some of those belief systems that no longer serve you. And those belief structures that are in place that no longer serve you can be symbolized by Saturn and Capricorn, like this structure within me that it worked probably for a little while, and probably it served its purpose in some way, or it kept me safe in some way, or it created a good container for me to grow in. But now that container is no longer useful for where I'm at or where the collective energy of society is. And so that needs to change. And so that's where neuroplasticity comes in. So neuroplasticity is the ability of neural networks in the brain to change through growth and reorganization. It's when the brain is rewired to function in some way that differs from how it previously functioned. So that's it. Quick downloads, external circumstances that shift, relationships that shift. The underlying purpose, Pluto coming through, is like, I want you to see things. I want you to be aware of things. I want you to shift things. I want you to be able to express yourself authentically. The other few things I see with this energy is definitely technological advancements. So Aquarius definitely is related to technology and advancing society. And so I can definitely see that from more of a collective standpoint, is these quick downloads or quick thoughts or quick ideas that really leap us forward in terms of technology and how to use technology to better society. That's one expression of it. When we talk about Pluto going through Aquarius or going through any sign, Pluto is simply deeply transformative. So somebody with like a Pluto type, go back to like consciousness and frequency level, somebody experiencing that energy or working through the energy of a Pluto in Uranus can come through as distortion. It could come through as manipulation. It could come through as obsession. It could come through as my intentions are not pure here. And so I'm going to take this action, or I'm going to do these things which are going to impact other people. And the reason for that impact is so that there is a response, so that I can understand what I'm doing and how to better align or to better understand why I'm behaving or why I'm acting in that way. Whether that individual takes it that way or not depends. You have the ability to focus your energy and focus your consciousness in certain areas. And if you're taking action from more of a lower self, more of an egoic place, then your energy is not open to the feedback that you're getting from the external. It's just not. And so you'll continue to receive feedback from the external. It may look different. It may come in the form of different people. It may come in a different way from different experiences. But that's kind of the way the universe communicates, is like, I'm going to keep bringing experiences to you which make your reality really difficult. And so I want you to see this about yourself so you can transform it. Again, how that gets received by the individual is up to them. They're part of their soul journey. The other thing here with the higher vibrational frequencies of Mercury, and it's really a higher vibrational frequency of Venus too. And the Venus function I'm talking about is yourself. Like, how do you value yourself? How do you value what you know? How do you value the skills and the resources you have within you to sustain your existence? How do I call in relationships that are helpful, that are aligned, that we come together, right? Aquarius is that 11th house, groups and associations. How can we come together here? And how can we, through our collective energies, make something great here, make something better, help ourselves individuate, help each other individuate, help the planet? So part of that is to understand frequency and understand that this, in order for energies, people to come together and be able to really authentically and from like a heart level, when we talk about doing things from a conscious, aware, open-hearted perspective, how can we collaborate with people that are at the same frequency, or let's just say that are vibing at a similar frequency where there's a good energy exchange? How can we form those groups? It's almost like, not how can we form these groups, it's almost like I feel like those groups will be formed. I don't think it's something we need the effort to do, and that's a part of this energy too, is like reducing the effort, like allowing things to show up. And so I feel like this energy is one of bringing groups of people together so that they can collaborate, so that they can see each other's stuff, so that they can mirror for each other what needs to be seen, so they can pool their energy, so that they can make things better, so they can look at certain structures that are in place, whether that's in the world or within themselves, that are no longer useful anymore and need to be shifted. That's part of this energy as well. The other thing I get here with this Pluto and Aquarius is people that are giving birth to people that will have, to babies that will have Pluto and Aquarius in their natal chart symbolically. The Pluto and Aquarius generation, because remember, this is a whole generation of people that will be coming in with Pluto and Aquarius. From a collective standpoint, this generation is holding the frequency of liberation, which means that they are, again, it depends. Like there's an asterisk on this, but what I see from a collective standpoint is holding that liberation frequency means that they are coming onto this planet with certain knowledge and wisdom already. And they have this, some of this generation, or let's say the seeds of this generation, have a knowing of inner alignment, a knowing of the way things should be to support authentic expression. So what I mean by that is, like, what I say to people that are going to have babies with Pluto and Aquarius is really pay attention to them when they strongly rebel against certain things. Like, think of the traditional school system setting where they're like, I'm not going. I don't want to go. This doesn't make sense. I don't like it. Everything in my body is telling me I don't want to go to it. They have wisdom within them. So instead of saying, well, and again, how that gets responded to is depending on the situation and the people and the frequency and the consciousness. But what I would say to people is just to be open and be curious. And if your child is like, what you're telling me, I don't, that's off, right? Or I don't feel that I want to do this, but it's something that you've always done, or you've always believed, or even a societal system that's in place that's been around for a long period of time. And it's like, well, that's just the way we do things. You just have to do this. This generation's going to strongly rebel against that and be like, nope, I'm not doing it. And they're going to be very adamant that they don't want to do it. But they're also going to bring in knowledge and wisdom that they just carry within them in terms of, well, how do we do this differently? Or what is a good way to do this, right? Like using the example of school. It's like, well, school's not really working, or it's not giving us the information that we need. Well, maybe a Pluto and Aquarius child will be like, I already know what I need. Just let me experience life. I'll get the information that I need, right? And they may not come out and say that, but in their actions, they will just, through looking at the reality around them, be able to navigate to certain things and be like, huh, yeah, I need that, right? And they'll pick up a book and they'll read a book, or they'll go on the internet, or they'll start playing video games, or they'll start being interested in you name it, right? And it's like, so there's this inner knowing within them of like, yeah, there's certain things that I know that I need, and my individual knowing self is going to go find them. It's going to get them. It's going to call them to me effortlessly. I'm not going to need to be trained by somebody on how to do it. And that's not to say that they will never learn from somebody or need to be taught something or be able to see things within themselves. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that they will come in with a certain frequency of showing the collective where they need to change or where things need to change to better sustain our existence here on this earth, and in a way where it's more aligned with who we are, and it's more aligned with sustaining this existence here on earth, being more mindful and conscious of how we're interacting with our environment, with earth, with the food sources that we eat, how we source things, how we care for people, all of it. Like it's all on the table in terms of there needs to be some drastic changes in order for us to have the most impactful, purposeful experience here in this reality on Earth. Okay, so let's see what I have here. I feel like I'm rambling on here. I feel like I need to kind of wrap this up. So I have here some of the Pluto, some of the themes: rapid evolution and growth. I already talked about some of this stuff. Rapid evolution and growth, spontaneous awakenings, realizations, receiving bits and pieces of information where they come to you and maybe they come and then they go, and then they come again and they go, and they come and they go. So like the ones that keep pinging you, they keep coming into your awareness. It's like those are the ones that are prompting you to take action. And so what could happen here is that safety and security might come up, where it's like, well, if I take that move or I do that thing that I really feel called to do that keeps coming up for me, that's going to disrupt my safety and security. So now I need to make a decision. Do I follow that, or does safety and security win out? Right. And so there's this game that can get, or this experience, let's call it, that could go on where you're like, okay, yeah, this keeps coming to me. I need to do it. 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 But it's going to mean that this stuff that I'm really reliant on from a security standpoint is going to shift. That stuff's going to come up. It's like you're almost, what I feel is like you're almost not going to be able to rely on the safety and security. It's almost like the symbolism of Pluto coming through Aquarius is like, nope, you're not going to allow to rely on safety and security, and know that these actions that you feel you're being prompted to take are for a reason and you're supported. So just follow it and everything's going to work out. I already talked about the trauma stuff, so I don't need to go there anymore. Detachment is a thing here. So detachment, always when I talk about like Aquarius, just in general, that archetype is the ability to be objective, meaning that I am having an experience and I'm in that experience, but I'm able to pull out of it and I'm able to witness how I'm engaging with the experience. And that's like a superpower of Aquarius, is to be able to be objective and almost narrate their experience of a situation or a relationship or an interaction, where they can step out and be like, I recognize that I was triggered there. So I'm curious, what is that showing me? That's being objective and pulling out from the experience, rather than I'm triggered here and I'm going to act from a triggered place, which means I'm going to lash out at somebody. Instead of doing that, there's the objectivity which comes into place, which is like, oh, I was seeing what was going on within me there. I can see it. And now I can step back, or I can step really into who I am from a soul level and be able to observe my experience in that situation so that I can gain wisdom and I can understand it. And so the other big thing here is going to be confrontations. There are going to be confrontations. There are going to be confrontations with other people. There's going to be confrontations with yourself, potentially. There's going to be, when you think of Pluto coming through Aquarius and, hey, I want you to be the best version of yourself, in order for you to do that, you need to see stuff within yourself. You need to see stuff within other people, and you need to be able to orient yourself appropriately, which means that I like to talk about frequency. So one thing that has developed for me is the ability to feel something being off, both in myself and in other people, meaning that like somebody says something to you, but underneath their words, I can feel the words are saying one thing, underneath that, and the energy of them that delivered the words is different. There's not an alignment there. And in psychology, it's called a double bind, which means I'm asking you or I'm telling you something. And on the surface, I can read that and be like, absolutely, yeah, that makes sense. I totally get it. Sure. But I'm like, there's something within me that feels off. And so double binds are something that really throws people that can sense it. It throws and it's not even people that can sense it. Everyone has this ability. It's whether you're tuned into it or not. And so double binds really wreak havoc with your nervous system and wreak havoc with your groundedness, because there's two separate messages that are being delivered, one that's on the surface, one that's below, and they don't match. And so you're reading the words and you're like, yeah, that totally makes sense. I get it. But why do I feel off? Why does it not feel good? What's going on here? And so that's just one example of what I'm talking here with confrontations, is that those experiences are going to help define for you, what do I need to see in myself? Where do I need to remove my energy? Where do I need to protect my energy? Those type of things are going to come up. And even so another example here is like just confrontations where somebody is expressing a lower frequency energy or a lower consciousness energy, where they're just reacting and they're not quite aware of what their actions mean for other people. And so there's going to be confrontation there. People are going to react to that. And so part of this energy, whatever is in us that's not conscious and aware, that needs to be seen and needs to be transformed to raise consciousness, that's one of the ways that it has to be seen, is through relationships with other people, to come into contact with other people so that you can see it and it can come to the surface. And again, whether or not how you respond to that is going to be unique to you. You're going to respond to it how you feel you need to respond to it. But what's happening underneath the surface here is, I want you to see where you don't have clear boundaries. I want you to see some shadow stuff that maybe you're not owning within yourself. I want you to see where maybe you haven't felt like you're enough, and you are enough. And I want to show you you're enough. Those type of things are going to come to the surface, or have the potential to come to the surface during this time period. The other thing is, going back to liberation, being okay with going your own way, being okay with, I'm not going to resonate with everyone, although we are all a form of energy, we're all a form of unconditional love. So really, from a higher level, this reality is all experiencing and learning, and it feels really important because we're in it and we're in this body and we have this consciousness and we're here on this earthly plane. So it feels really important and we feel things deeply. From a higher level, it's all an expression of unconditional love. We have these we're playing these games and we're playing these roles with one another so that we can learn, we can experience, we can gain wisdom, we can grow, we can evolve and have other experiences and keep going and learning, experiencing, and evolving. And so part of this liberation frequency is being really solid, safe, and secure in who you are, and knowing that that's not going to be a frequency match for everyone. And that's okay. Not being like, well, part of me feels good being in this group, going back to Aquarius. Part of me feels good being in this group. And so that's ticking some of the boxes for me. But there's some energies in this group or some people in this group that I feel off, or there's something that they're showing me about myself, or there's an activation within me that's showing me something here. So what is it? And so in the instance where you maybe are using the example, just one example of I'm in this group and I like some of the things about this group, and I like some people here, some of the things I don't and don't really resonate with me, but I'm not going to say anything because I would rather just fit into the group, right? Going back to safety and security. So part of this time period is just using that example. No, yeah, I do have a voice and I do want to express it. And maybe I feel within me that if I express this thing, there's some fear that comes up, because if I express this thing, then maybe I'll be rejected and I can't participate in this group anymore. And so the part of me that likes being part of this group is not going to feel good about that. And so I would rather just push that aside. This energy with Pluto going into Aquarius is like, no, you actually need to face it. You need to understand what this is showing you. And if you are not expressing yourself authentically, it's going to get really uncomfortable. You're going to have to, or else maybe in that example I gave, maybe you leave that group and you join another group. That same underlying theme is going to happen again. It's going to keep coming up for you so you can understand what it's trying to show you about yourself. So yes, this time period is going to embrace going your own way, but going your own way and being comfortable. In that example I gave, it would be like, I feel this way and I am stating it, and I am open to seeing something about myself here, but I'm going to give to you my experience. I'm not going to withhold it. I'm not going to push it aside. This is how I feel, and I'm going to give it out. How that gets responded to will then give you some information in terms of, oh, okay, maybe I was not seeing something within myself, or I wasn't quite understanding the things that I believed. And so now that I've given them out and I've gotten feedback, I can see it objectively now and I can understand it. And I can be like, oh, got it. Thank you. Understanding it now, I don't call those experiences in anymore. I'm more integrated, right? Or another example could be, I'm forcing myself into this place that doesn't really feel like a good fit for me. It feels kind of good because I'm part of a group and maybe I like some of the elements of this group, but it's not supporting all of who I am. And so I express that and I get the feedback, and maybe there's a couple people that are expressing themselves and showing their shadow side. And so you get that feedback and you can sit with it and be like, okay, well, now how do I orient myself? How do I honor myself so that I can be in this space, be in this group, be authentically myself, and feel really safe and secure in doing that? How do I take the steps to do that? But the most important thing is that I am very grounded in what I know and who I am. I'm expressing myself authentically. And so if I express myself and the feedback is projection, then that's showing me I don't have proper boundaries, or that maybe safety and security is winning out. So I need to say, this isn't a good container for me. I don't feel like this is a place where I can contribute my energy and feel aligned. So now I need to figure out What do I do? And be okay with going your own way, meaning, okay, well, maybe this isn't the group, right? Or maybe these aren't the people. And so, how do I protect my energy? How do I make sure that I stay aligned? That kind of stuff is going to come to the surface. And then the last part that goes along with this is what I talked about a little bit before, which is forming groups where you are in a collaborative, energetic environment where you can exchange ideas, you can approach them from an authentic place with openness, with curiosity, which then creates this group energy of we can really expand and evolve together. But not only that, we create this other energy with the energy of the group where we can accomplish so much more than we could have done individually. And so that's the other symbol of this energy is being able to come together with people that honor each other, that are at a certain frequency, and that can really transform their experience and transform society. Like, if you want to take it to that level, transform humanity, transform the way we navigate this reality. That can be part of this energy here too. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that's it. Oh, yeah. So personally, so how do you look at your own chart and say, well, where is this going to affect me? Or to keep your eye on these areas in your chart to see what's coming up for me as we navigate these next 20 years. And so in your chart, how will your reality be redefined? And so you can look at, since Aquarius, we're still going to have that Saturn influence because Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. Look at where Saturn is by house, sign, and aspect in your chart. Look at the 10th house because that's under the underlying energy of the 10th house is Capricorn and Saturn energy. And then look at what house contains Capricorn. So what house has Capricorn on the cusp? What planets are there? What aspects to those planets? All of that's going to be impacted by this energy potentially in some form or fashion. And so again, individually, it depends on how you experience this. It could be infinite number of possibilities. And then look at Uranus. Look at your 11th house. Look at this symbol of Uranus by house, sign, and aspect. What house has Aquarius on the cusp of it? Are there any planets there? What are the aspects to those planets? And so these are just some of the areas you can look at to get a pretty good understanding of areas of your life or areas within your psyche or areas from a soul level that are or can potentially be impacted here with this transit. And now, certainly, if you have personal planets in the sign of Aquarius, especially here in the early degrees of Aquarius, then yeah, I mean, you're going to, in this year, going into next year, as Pluto starts making its way into the early degrees of Aquarius, there's the energy of transformation there for sure. And certainly the sign opposite, the Leo archetype, and then the houses that are square to these are also going to be impacted as well. And there's significance to the oppositions and the squares. And so looking at these parts of your chart here will give you a better understanding. And so I was all wrapped up and ready to tie a bow on this thing. And then I was like, oh no, that's right. I printed out the assignment of the planets as it relates to the chakra system of the body. And I'm like, I wanted to talk about that. I mean, these are the designations of the planets as it relates to your energetic chakra system. And so when I looked at this, or when I thought about showing this, I'm like, well, this is good symbolism in terms of where this is going to come out individually and within the collective, or let's just say what's going to be brought to light from an energetic perspective. And if you look here, Saturn, Uranus, and Pluto are all symbols that are related to the root chakra. The root chakra, if you're not aware, the root chakra is your foundation. It's where you feel safe and secure. It's the foundation in which all of the other chakras above it operate. So we've been going through Pluto, going through Saturn since 2008. We're going to go into Uranus now. So those symbols are all there at the root chakra. So think of, from a foundational standpoint, what's being transformed here is the root chakra. And you can look up the root chakra and the meaning of the root chakra and what that is attributed to, but it's foundational, it's ancestral, it's where you feel safe, it's where you feel grounded. And so all of that is going to be transformed, has the opportunity to be transformed during this time period. As always, thank you so much for checking this out. I appreciate your time and your energy, and I will see you again in another video. Take care.